One extremely useful function in Excel is the if statement. The if statement allows you to consider certain criteria and return one value if your criteria is met, and another value if it is not met. So for instance, the if statement takes three arguments. As you'll see, it takes a test, a value to return if the test is true, and a value to return if the test is not true. The test returns a what we call Boolean type argument, which is a true or false expression. So for testing, we can either do an operation that compares greater than, less than, equals to, or it could actually take another function such as is blank or is text. It just needs to have a test criteria that returns true or false. That way the if statement knows whether to return the second argument for if true or the third argument if false. So let's practice using the if statement. Here we see that there's two columns of numbers. If we wanted to divide the first column number by the second column and have the answer go in this cell, we would want to use an if statement. That way we would ensure that we're not dividing by 0 in any case, and therefore get a null expression returned. So we could say test the second column to say if not equals to 0, or if greater than 0, and then we have our second argument return the division, and the third argument just be a return of blank, so we know that we don't want a calculation returned dividing by 0. So we type equals if open parentheses, and then we could say if cell B5, let's say greater than 0. You could also do this by not equals or however else you wanted to compare. So that would return true if greater than 0, and what we'd want it to return is this cell divided by this cell. And if it was not greater than 0, we would want the if statement to return blank. And to do this, whenever you return a string, you put it in quotation marks. So we could return a blank string by just doing double quotation marks in the parentheses, and voila, you get your argument. So if we drug this down and applied it to all of these rows, you would see that division only happened when number 2 was not 0. And here we have blanks returned. There are many uses for the if statement, and this is just one of them. It's extremely common to test for multiple values, certain criteria, or what have you. You could also have your first test criteria just be a cell that either has a true or false value instead of actually a comparison or operator therein. So for instance, let's do another practice. Here we could consider some test scores, and we'd want to have a formula that determines if the person passed or failed based on their grade. Let's say any score above a 70 is a pass, and any score below a 70 is a fail. So we could write equals if this greater than, let's say 70, and we could return, remember that strings always have to be in quotation marks, pass, and otherwise return fail. And we see this person passes, and if we drag down, fill down, we see that person fails. Furthermore, we could consider the min and max statements, which are often used in conjunction with the if statement. In this case, we would want to see the minimum and maximum grade out of this person's test scores. This would obviously be more applicable to a larger data set, but this is just to get a feel for using the functions. So we say equals min, and this takes an array of values and returns the smallest one, the minimum value. We take both of these, and voila, 75 is the minimum. And down here we see 55 is the minimum. Here we could say equals max. We take both of these, and we see 92 is the maximum. And down here, 60 is the maximum. So another interesting and often used function is blank, is text, and the is number functions, which are both Boolean expressions that return either true or false. These are often used in conjunction with the if statement in the first test criteria to test something to evaluate true or false to decide what to return. So as you can see here, we have codes and we want to see if they're blank, text or numbers. So in this case, we'd say equals is blank and then put this cell. We'd use is text, and here we'd use is number, and you can see how they evaluate. If we drag them down, you can see is blank, yes, it's true. You could see here is blank, is text, it's false, no, because it's blank. Is it a number? Probably not, and it's false as well. And see, number is number. So these are expressions that are commonly used within an if statement to evaluate your test criteria to determine what you want to return. There's countless examples that could be used and countless cases that could require the use of an if statement. Other common functions used around if statements are COUNTA function and the COUNTIF function. So for instance, if we wanted to use COUNTA to count just the total number of values or strings, we could say above here we wanted to count total number of people in this example. We could say equals count A and then take the range, and there's 2. The just count function counts only numerical values, so it would return 0 in this case. So if we did count and we took these names, since they're not numerical expressions, we get 0. COUNTIF allows you to count meeting certain criteria. So if we wanted to count the number of freshmen right here, we could say equals COUNTIF, and then we would take our range, and then we would have the test criteria, which has to be in quotation marks because it is a string. And in this case, actually, any operations also would need to be in quotation marks. And you'd say freshman. And there is 1 freshman. Now you may read the explanation on the next 2 slides to get a better feel for all these functions and how to use them, or you may continue straight to the practice exercises to learn and be comfortable using these functions.